series of events led me to simply Google, what do the world's most successful, fulfilled, happy, energized, wealthy people, what do they do? What are their daily rituals, routines, and habits? And this was actually a conversation with our mutual friend, John Berghoff, the founder of Exchange, who encouraged me to go figure out what the world's most successful people do what they do every day, and I'll see similar results, right? Very simple formula. And I kept coming across morning routines and morning rituals. And I was like, I'm not a morning person. Like, what else do they do? Like, next. And something grabbed my attention and it pulled me in, one of the articles, and I read it. And here's the takeaway. This was the life-changing, and this is what I would share with you to kind of set the foundation around self-care, is what I took away was arguably the single most important improvement I can make in my life to improve my life is to upgrade my morning ritual, or to create a morning ritual. And the idea is that how we start our day sets the tone and the context and the direction for the rest of the day, and therefore our life. And if you win the morning, you win the day. If you start the day by putting yourself in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, you are a better version of who you were when you went to bed the night before. And if that's how every day begins, you enter the day energized and clear and ready to go, on fire. And so I decided, okay, if I'm going to do the morning ritual, I'm going to create the ultimate morning ritual. Like, I want this to be, I was so tired at 6 months into this downward spiral. I was depressed. I was just falling apart. And so I created these 6 practices, which we'll dive into today. And I didn't know how to do any of them. Like, one was meditation. I had never meditated in my life. One was affirmations. I thought affirmations were really goofy. Like, what do you pump yourself up, you know? And but the next morning I woke up an hour earlier than normal, which the interesting thing was, I thought it was going to be hard because I wasn't a morning person, but it was actually like I was a kid on Christmas Eve the night before. I was so excited to wake up and try this new ritual. The alarm went off the next morning. I woke up, jumped out of bed. I did the 6 practices and I sucked at them. I was terrible. Like, I wasn't good at, I didn't know how to meditate. I was bad at all of these things. However, even poorly executing this self-care ritual, by 6 a.m., I felt so clear. I felt so energized, motivated, and I felt hopeful. And maybe that's the most important piece, because I believe that one of the major causes of depression is when you lose hope. And after 6 months of, being optimistic at first, eventually life just beat me down and I got scared and I didn't know what to do. And that very first day that I did the Miracle Morning, it wasn't called the Miracle Morning, but I did the self-care practice, I had hope. I went, wait a minute, if I start every day like this, it's only a matter of time before I'm able to do the things I need to do to create what I want in my life. And less than 2 months later, so basically, Jesse, this answer to your question is, I was on fire on day 1. And on day 2, I felt even better. And on day 3, I felt so much better that I went, I want more time. 1 hour goes by too fast. I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 4 a.m., which seems crazy, but I was getting so much value from this. And so within 2 months of doing this in 2008, and this is so relevant to right now, right? Right now, the economy is crashing. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. Right now, we don't know what the future holds. Right now, for a lot of us, there's a lot of fear and a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And at that time, although it was different circumstances, all of those same emotions and human experiences were going on for millions of people, myself included. And in the midst of the chaos, my self-care practice within 2 months, not only was my depression gone within days, I had more than doubled my income. I decided to train for this ultra marathon. And then I decided I had a responsibility to share this with other people because it had changed my life. And that gave birth to my life's work. The rest is kind of history. So that to me is the high point. And what's amazing about it is I went from depressed, stressed, anxious, and broke to feeling incredible within 24 hours. And it just got better and better and better. Every day I committed to that self-care, because as I got better, my self-care ritual got better. And as my self-care ritual got better, I got better, right? It was this beautiful loop that fed into each other, and it changed my life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I've heard that story so many times, but for some reason this time there was something about it. And maybe it is because of this time, the times we're in are unlike any other. Similar to 2008, I agree, but in some ways, the social distancing, it's just so, it's different,
It's different. It's a bigger deal, way bigger deal, but that's the closest comparison that we have in our recent past. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the second layer is, what are those self-care actions? So what are those self-care actions that you've, developed and refined and practiced, and every morning at 4:30 you get up and you do this every day, no matter what? Like, so give us a picture of those. What are those self-care actions?
So this this acronym, the Savers. These are the 6 practices that make up the Miracle Morning. And the first S is for silence. I'll run through these real quick and then I'll dive into just a couple. The first S is for silence. That can be meditation, it can be prayer, it can be breathing exercises, or for me, it's all of the above every morning for typically about 10 to 12 minutes. The A is for affirmations. And affirmations, I think, have been taught really ineffectively for, I don't know, as long as I've been around, by teaching us to either lie to yourself. If you want to be happy, just say I am happy until you fake it until you make it, kind of thing. But I found that the truth will always prevail. And so if you say I am and it's followed by something that you do not believe in your heart, you don't resonate with, and you're trying to convince yourself or trick yourself, I think that can be better than nothing, but it's not the optimum way. And we'll dive into the optimum way here in a few minutes. The V is for visualization. The E is for exercise. The R is for reading. And the final S in Savers is for scribing, which, as my good friend JP Sears says, is a pretentious word for writing. But for the acronym, journaling wouldn't fit at the end of Saberja. So those 6 practices, I want to, those, if you look into history, right, none of those are new, by the way. And that was actually an insecurity of mine in sharing this with the world and almost doing them on day one. I'm like, these aren't new. And we're conditioned, societally conditioned, to look for new. I want the new phone, the new app, the new that we want, like, oh, I've heard of this before. And we dismiss that which we know, when the reality is it's that which has been known for centuries that's most beneficial, most valuable, most useful, most reliable, right? And so I decided to do all 6 of those practices in 1 hour, 10 minutes each. And I'm gonna quote Robert Kiyosaki, one of my favorite authors. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He interviewed me on Rich Dad Radio, and he had read Miracle Morning 3 times, and he does it every day. He has for 5 years plus, which is crazy. And but he had me on the show, and at the end of the show, he summed this up in a way that I quote him, or I paraphrase anyway, because he says this really well. He says, before the Miracle Morning, he says every successful person on the planet that he was aware of, or most of them, swear by at least one of those 6 practices, because they're all 6 individually game changers. If you start meditating, it'll change your life, right? It'll lower your cortisol levels. You'll gain new levels of clarity. You'll tap into infinite intelligence, gain new wisdom, on and on, right? Just that will change your life. If you start reading and you don't read, right, that'll change your life. Any one of the 6 practices will change your life. And Robert Kiyosaki said, Hal, what I think makes the Miracle Morning, literally it creates miracles for people, or it enables them to create miracles in their life, is any one of those will change your life. Do 1, 2, or 3, game over. But if you do all 6, you're harnessing the power and the benefits of 6 of the most timeless personal development practices in the history of, the world. And so that's the Miracle Morning. Those are the 6 practices. You can do them in any order. You can do them for different durations for each. It's totally customizable. You could do it in 6 minutes and do 1 minute each on days that you're really pressed for time. Or you can do, most people do a 30-minute or a 60-minute Miracle Morning. But I've been doing that now for 12 or 13 years.
Wow. Love it. So so I think that's really important to hear, that is that the Miracle Morning, you don't have to take an hour. You don't have to take 90 minutes. You can take 30 minutes. You can take 20 minutes. And, I think that's really important to hear, because a lot of people get overwhelmed with, oh, I don't have the time, and that's gone now. So you do have the time. So, if you can spend an hour, please do that. But if you can only spend 30 minutes tomorrow to start to do these 6 practices, this is how you start your day is how you create your life. I remember you saying that, and it's really powerful. You're a really powerful example of that. So thank you for that. And
Got it.
also, I would love to ask you, I had something I wanted to ask, but I want to ask a question that you didn't know. Is there anything new, you know, now that this is happening, is there any additional things that you've maybe added that is maybe the seventh, like, you know, how the seven habits, maybe the eighth habit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's the seventh, if there
Well,
is one?
it's interesting that you asked that, and I'm going to answer it in a it's almost going to be the opposite answer of what you asked. And here's what I mean by that. Um, for those of you that follow me, you may know this. If you don't know this, real quick, the last year of my life, so 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a really rare aggressive form of cancer, and I've gone through intensive chemotherapy and steroids and all sorts of horrific pharmaceutical drugs. I shouldn't say horrific; they saved my life, but very detrimental to my overall health. And about a year ago, I developed anxiety, and then that led into a severe insomnia, and then that led into severe depression. So for the last really 4 months, I've been deeply depressed, suffering from anxiety to where I wouldn't have been able to do this a month ago. Like, I was canceling calls and speeches and everything. And about a week and a half ago, this is very new, Jesse, I was going, why am I still depressed? What the hell? What's going on? I've tried everything. I hired coaches. I hired healers. I've tried everything. And I thought, when was I depressed before? The only other time in my life I was deeply depressed was 2008. And I went, okay, well, how did I overcome it? And I go, well, I created a morning ritual, the Miracle Morning. And I go, I felt a little discouraged. This was a week ago, because I go, I've done the Miracle Morning. I never stopped. Why doesn't it work anymore? Like, I feel hopeless. And then I stopped and I examined it, and I went, wait a minute. What did my Miracle Morning look like then compared to now? And like for most of us, whether it's in business or our relationships, the things that got us to the point of success, once we get there, that we usually fall off in some way. Either we stop doing them, or they lose the fundamentals that made them work. And as I broke down my Miracle Morning, I went, okay, my meditation is, I don't sit up straight and do diaphragm breathing and meditate. I literally set a timer and I lay under the covers and I stretch and I just think positive thoughts. I kind of pray, but it's not the same. And the biggest one is affirmations. The way I teach affirmations in the Miracle Morning book is that you create a set of written, what are you committed to, number one, in each area of your life? What are you committed to in your business, your relationship, to be happy? Number two, why is that commitment deeply meaningful to you? And number three, which specific actions are you committed to taking and when to ensure that commitment becomes a reality? So in 2008, I created those 3 points to each area of my life, and it was in one page, and I read it every day. And as I talk about in the book, the benefit of that is you're literally programming your subconscious mind to be committed to the outcome, to remember why it's so meaningful to you, and to be really clear on the action you're committed to taking. And reading those affirmations over and over and over again is what programs your mind for success. Well, if you look at my affirmations now, each one of these is multiple paragraphs long. I don't know if you can see how many dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of affirmations I have. What I've done for the last few years is I just scroll through and pick the one I feel like I need today. And the problem with that is it creates more overwhelm. One day I'm affirming something, the next day it's something else, the next day it's something else. And so the point is this, I'm getting into the weeds, but here's the point, Jesse. I didn't add anything new. In fact, I added too much new, and it got me off of what really made a difference. In 2008, I had a beginner's mindset. I had a fundamental, foundational, simple, but highly effective practice. And little over a week ago, I decided to start reading the Miracle Morning again, which is weird. I haven't read it since I wrote it. I decided to approach the Miracle Morning with a beginner's mindset and all 6 of the savers. And Jesse, I'm not kidding. My depression went away in a day, just like in 2008. My anxiety has gone away. And it might come back. I don't know. It's only 8 or 9 days, but this is the first 8 or 9 consecutive days in the last 6 months where I've felt clear. All the fear and anxiety and the stress around my business and the coronavirus, and dude, I'm fine. Like, mentally and emotionally, my inner world is at the best, and you might be able to feel it right now. Like, I am feeling the way I felt in 2008 when I first started the Miracle Morning. And it's not because I'm doing anything new and different and cool. It's because I'm doing it the way that I did it when I wrote about it in the book and when I started it back then.
You know, I was going to mention that there's something about your energy right now that I think, you know, I saw you recently and, you know, your energy was good, but it wasn't like it is now. There's like this underlying renewal of energy. And that's why I didn't ask the question I told you I was going to ask, because I felt compelled to ask because something seems a little different. So thank you for sharing that. And that's a really powerful example. How many of you, just by a raise of hands, can relate to starting something, having everything that got you lit on fire and you practicing, all of a sudden you start getting other information and then you lose track of that original thing that helped you? How many people? Yeah, just about everyone. And I think that's been true for me as well. And I think going back to the basics sometimes, and the basics are profound. You know, to go back to say the basics is Miracle Morning is profound. And so I really, really appreciate that. And you know, respecting your time. I'm gonna ask this question. Is there anything else that you'd love to share with us? Anything else that
I
you think
want
we
to
need to know?
answer. I want to answer Jan Stanley's question. And hey, Jan, I love you, Jan. I spent a lot of time with Jan in our mastermind and Jesse as well. But Jan asked, "How did you overcome insomnia? I haven't been sleeping for months." I want to answer that because I think that everybody right now in this answer, there's a benefit whether you have insomnia or you just have stress. And I suffered from extreme insomnia, and I think it was a result of the chemo and the steroids. So it was so. I mean, I was sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night for 4 months. It was and that created the anxiety, the depression. It all kind of fed into each other. And here's how I overcame it. Let me think here how to explain this. Okay, so here's what I recommend for everybody. Right now, most of us have a hell of a lot on our mind, right? And there's a lot of what we focus on is out of our control. You know, if you're watching the news, if you're thinking about the pandemic, if you're thinking about the economy, if you're thinking about the future, which we don't know what's coming down the pipe. We don't know. If you're thinking about politics, if you're, all these things we think about, or maybe just even your own life, right? You're like, I lost my job, or I've lost my income, or right, whatever it is. Here's a couple tips for you. So Jan, here's what I started doing. What was happening is I would lay awake at night and my mind was racing and my body was flooded with cortisol, right? And I wasn't sleeping. And if I did fall asleep, I'd wake right back up and I'd be freaking out. I realized that my only objective when my head hits the pillow and for the hour before, if not a few hours before, is to sleep. That is it. And so I made a conscious decision that I will not allow myself to think. And I know this is easier said than done. There's some conditioning that'll kind of have to happen. But I'm going to give you guys the bonus tip here that will make this easier, whether you have insomnia or just stress in general. So Jan, here's what I started doing. I started scheduling time to worry. Okay. I started scheduling time. And I say to worry, I think I called it initially it was called prepare for the worst case scenario, because I was very fearful of all of the potential worst case scenarios in terms of a lot of stuff, right? I mean, from conspiracy theories to, just a lot of stuff, like what could actually be happening, right? What agendas are being pushed right now? We don't really know what's going to happen in the economy, all these things. And what I found is that was consuming my thoughts like 90% of the day. It was just all day long. If I had a break in thinking, I thought that. It was only when I was on something like this where I didn't have time to think. But as soon as I got quiet, that's all I thought about. And it ruled my thinking. And so now I have an hour scheduled to, be proactive, to worry. You can, whatever floats your boat. It can be your hour to worry or whatever it is. The point is that 1 hour to worry or prepare for the worst case scenario or focus on your problems or your solutions or whatever it is, right? Having that hour in your schedule gives you 23 hours of freedom. And that's what I found. That's what allowed me to sleep, by scheduling that hour. And whenever I was worried, I would pull out I have a document on my phone, and I also have a piece of paper by my bed, so I don't have to turn my phone on at night. I always have it on airplane mode. But so I have it in two places where I can write down the things I need to think about, the things on my mind, the things I need to worry about, they go in the same spot. And then every morning, and then I get to just, I have permission to not have to give it a second thought. And then in the morning at 7 a.m., I pull that out and I'm like, all right, got to worry about some stuff, and I'll feel a little stressful, right? But as soon as it's over, the other 23 hours, I'm focused on whatever is the task at hand, whether it's sleeping or being present for my kids or my wife or meditating, whatever it is. My mind is no longer racing because I've allotted time for it to do that.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Schedule.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jan. You're very welcome.
Really, thank you so much.
Yeah, great question, Jan. Thank you. Thank you.
And let me give one other. I'll give one other just super short tip. I'm not big on taking a lot of supplements unless they're whole food supplements, and most supplements are synthetic chemicals. I found one. I'm actually started working with the sleep doctor. He's the one that gave me that tip that I just gave you, by the way, Michael Bruce. And I would also add, you can get it's a supplement. It's a melatonin supplement made from grass and rice. Like it's food based. If you go to Amazon, the brand is Herbatonin, Herbaton, melatonin, Herbatonin melatonin, and they have 3 grams and they have 0.3 grams or 0.03 grams, depending on if you want a really low dose or you want a higher dose. So I just started doing that as well, and so that that way if you have a little something extra, and even the placebo, I've been doing the smallest one, the 0.03 grams, and it's that even just taking it, going, okay, once that kicks in, that's going to help me rest even further. So I'm doing it from both angles.
That's so helpful, because I started taking melatonin and it's not doing anything for me. So maybe it's just the brand. So
yeah. So Herbatonin and both of those I think is key too. Yeah.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. I'm happy. Thanks for asking the question.
Thank you.
That's a great question, Jan. Thank you. I love that. All right. Well, Hal, I've kept you past the time that you promised. So if you want, we'll dive deep. You can stick around and we're going to dive deep. We're going to do some fun breakout activities. But if there's anything else that you think we should know right now at this period of time, in this period of time in our world, which is unlike any other, please share. If not, we're super grateful. So I'm going to leave it up to you.
I'll end with an inspirational thought, I guess, for everybody. And here's what I would encourage you to consider. Right now, you have to be more intentional with what you choose to focus on than arguably any other time in history, right? And potentially depending on your individual journey in life. But you have to be intentional on what you focus on. And that piggybacks on what I just said, which is like at bed, your only objective is to sleep. So don't focus on all the things that are out of your control. And in general, focus on what's in your control right now. If you can't do anything about something until tomorrow, don't let it occupy your mental space. Only focus on what's in your control right now, unless you're intentionally spending time to schedule time to focus on something else. And the last thing I'll say is this: every challenge in life, every adversity is an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and become better than we've ever been before. And so I encourage you to come from that place of optimism that, you know what, you have 100% success rate, as you've probably heard before, of making it through your challenges, and you're going to make it through this one too. And there is a better version of you in the midst of this that will emerge on the other side if you choose to believe that and you choose to practice self-care every day so that you can be at your best for yourself, for those you love, and for those you lead. So Jesse, thank you for having me. I'm going to go play with my kids, everybody. I love you, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Hal, let's send some energy to Hal. Come on, get your hands together. This is for you, Hal. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Much love, Hal.